Right, so the Marianne Williamson King Charles campaign advert, which was kind of like I did it as an advert to support Republic campaign in England, but I also kind of did it as irony, but also support for Marianne Williamson and RFK, and the fact that Biden won't give RFK security protection, and he's having to pay for it out of his own money. The actual song is like a cover version of Hey Joe, and there's not much changed in it really, not anything significant. I can't see why if Jimi Hendrix could publish Hey Joe, and if hundreds and thousands of people have done covers of Hey Joe, then why it would be removed. So I looked yesterday and it was still up. Now it's been taken down about 4 o'clock today, which is the 13th. Funnily enough, let me see if is it Friday. It's actually Friday the 13th today. It's Friday the 13th. Now this is the thing though. Tunecore, it says your friends at Tunecore right there. Tunecore claim to be like really. They claim to be kind of like user friendly. They claim to have a relationship with their artists and work closely with their artists and support their artists. All this promo with bands and really friendly artist supportive environment and all this, right? Generally, they are quite pleasant, and if you have problems, but they don't like going into great detail. And they give a lot of messages like, they just don't want to enter into any detail for legal purposes. But it's for legal purposes why you have to enter into detail, because if you're going to go to court, in foreign law, in the English civil proceedings, it says you've got to make efforts to resolve the matter out of court and actually have made reasonable efforts out of court. Now, if all they're doing is sending you a notice saying that they've got an issue with it, that's not resolving the matter out of court. That's just giving you notice. Now, this whole new culture of platforms, and Tunecore usually are a lot better than YouTube in many ways. If you don't know what's wrong with something, how can you correct it and change it to make it right again? And that's the thing with YouTube. They are too vague. And if it's quite a long video, they just say like, oh, it had COVID information or this or that. And if it actually doesn't have this or that in it, then it's not a valid claim anyway. But Tunecore, they actually sent this through, so I can't criticise Tunecore for this, right? I can't criticise them because they actually published it and it went live, but then it's been taken down. So it's like they're blaming, like Amazon, iTunes or whatever. But which platform it got taken down from, sometimes it's only like iTunes who won't have it on there or something like that, right? And usually, for the music, YouTube are usually the most lenient, even though we're having problems over as channels. There's a lot of music published on YouTube which has sexual content and is like that Flexi Sex album, which is completely made for sex and got sex talk in it, yet YouTube won't remove it. So they seem quite protective over music more than videos. So this is the email that I've got from Tunecore, right? But this is quite an important part of this, and it's getting into 4 minutes of talking now. I've had this problem with them before. When one of the platforms flags something and tells Tunecore to remove it, Tunecore sends you an email. Now, the email that Tunecore sends you, it says, right, they've got a little Facebook and Twitter sign in the bottom. They are the sites, Facebook and Twitter, which Parliament say to publish to these platforms. But it means all digital platforms and those type of platforms. What it says is, this is what I've got a problem with Tunecore, right? And this is probably due to their limited system, but it might not be due to their limited system. It says, we have processed your request to take down the following releases from the following stores. And it says taken down from all stores. Your music will be removed as soon as possible. Please note the stores may take up to a week to remove your music, but I haven't requested it being taken down. And in law, this is what they're pulling Lawrence Fox on now. They're pulling Lawrence Fox on what he said on TV, and they're taking it down to the exact words that he said. Like he claimed that he might or he would be a Blade Runner, or he would. That Lawrence Fox claims that he would take down ULEZ cameras, right? But he never said that. He actually said that he didn't. I mean, he didn't say he will or he is going to. He just said like he would. So that's actually not going to say that he will do it or he's going to do it. And when it comes down to those exact words, it matters in law. In fact, that's the only reason that Lawrence Fox had his house arrested. Was arrested in his house. He had the police rammed to arrest him in his house because of what he said on TV. Now, in this letter, it says we have processed your request to take down the following. So this email makes it look like that I've asked them to take my music down myself, right? And that is a flawed legal statement, because if there's any dispute in the future over this, right, and you have to go back to emails to check and you have to go to court, if in 6 months or 4 months I went to court and decided to challenge it and I had to show the court all the emails, it would look like that I asked them to take it down, although I have no such email that I've sent to them. But this is a piece of evidence that suggests that I asked them to take it down when I didn't. Now, if they have got a very limited email system and they've got a standard message that they send out when something's taken down, they need to update it, because it was the platforms, it was Amazon or iTunes or YouTube that requested it being taken down. Now, if I went to court, I would want to know which of those platforms it was. Here it says all stores. I don't think all stores requested it taken down. I mean, why did YouTube put it up in the first place, right? I think there's something really wrong with these messages. This message makes it look like it was me, it wasn't someone else that had it took down. And the thing with all the things that are happening at the moment, all the incidents, like, the Luton Airport explosion and the Leeds fire bus and the accidents and Boris Johnson's dad's next door neighbour and all these other incidents, they all look like it was someone else's fault. Cutting down that sycamore tree on Hadrian's Wall the other week as well. They never suggest that there is some other force behind it, like a terrorist force or an orchestrated force or someone else intervening in messages and so forth. And like that train accident when the signal failed and there were 250 people died, right? And this makes it look like it's me that asked for it. Now, and also, Tunecore are relatively friendly, right? A lot more friendly than YouTube, who just don't want to enter any meaningful conversation at all. At least Tunecore do entertain meaningful conversation to an extent, but they still don't really want to go into too much detail when you press them. And it is actually required. The whole premise of, for legal purposes, we don't want to go into legal discussion to protect our staff and company. Well, that is basically saying that if you do have a legal issue and if you do have a legal problem, the civil procedure rules say that you've got to try and resolve it out of court and make proper efforts. In those procedure rules, if you follow those procedure rules, you would have to show evidence that you've tried to make proper effort. And YouTube don't make any effort at all whatsoever, and they really don't want to go into dialogue at all. So they are breaking the law of the civil procedure rules, really. They provide a function, a basic, simple function to appeal, but when that appeal is rejected, when the response to that appeal is not adequate enough, and then if you actually press them on it, like I done on Twitter, and you actually get a response from them saying that, we were wrong, they've actually admitted being wrong when they rejected the appeal. how can they reject an appeal when at a later stage someone looks at it and then they said, oh yeah, we're wrong, you're right? That means that either they didn't really look into the appeal properly, or no one even looked at it, or so how many other appeals when people, get it rejected and then don't even press for it? Particularly when there's nothing actually wrong with the content, what they claimed. And if they don't actually, if there's no content at all to do with chips, but it's about chips, then that's a false statement. And it is a false claim. And it doesn't matter whether they've got third-party immunity from copyright or whatever. They themselves are issuing out false statements, false claims. I've got a feeling this style of message, if I had requested to take it down, then it'd be all right. And I have, in the past, asked them to take things down, funnily enough. But on this occasion, it wasn't me. I think they really need to get a different email that doesn't say that I requested it to take it down. It says, we have processed the third party's request to take this down because they claim it violated policy. And, on which store it was that took it down. Otherwise, how do you know that it's not the 77th Brigade or Biden, CIA intervention, which was on Twitter or YouTube? In a lot of these instances, I don't even actually think that it even was, Amazon or YouTube or even iTunes. I just think that, that there's an intervention in the process. There's some sort of intervention in this process. And the fact that this is a perfect cover of Hey Joe, and the fact that I've already got titles published petitioning King Charles, right? Already using that title, which you definitely can use it. And I've already got titles for Marianne 2024 published, which there's no problems with. So I don't really see why it could be an issue with the title, And the content is very, 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 very close. It's only minimal changes to Hey Joe. It's not that many changes. If I got it re-recorded so it's exactly the same as Hey Joe and a cover of it, there's not really, I don't think, if it's just like an audio recording spoken with no music, and I don't see how they can really, really reject it, to be honest. But this is not just me having problems, because this is like all over the internet now, on Russell Brand, on Jimmy Dore, on George Galloway. This is like the hot topic, these platforms taking things down, if it is for a function, like function of petition, which is function of advertisements for a democratic process. And the worst thing is that one of the titles that I've published, Team Kennedy one, is actually that law. It actually confirms and reaffirms the actual law, which actually says that these platforms can't intervene and do this, So there's something about the style of this. It could be innocent because you could get this message if you take it down, but you shouldn't be getting this message if a third party requests it being taken down. This style it's kind of giving false information, and it's the kind of corporate style which now they seem to be adopting. Fiverr has just inserted something that scans every file that you send. Every single file is now being scanned. When there's a war broke out in Iraq-Iran area, and now you've got EE sending you messages asking you to, why don't you sign up to EE security for your house, motion detection and all this. Oh, what's that noise outside? It's basically trying to terrify people. I think that, they talked about psychological strategy being used on people during lockdown, the government using it. EE, scaring people, oh, what's that noise outside? As if people, trying to make out that people are weak or, vulnerable. How have we got in this position from, Techney Village or from, Winchcombe Village or whatever? How have we got to this situation, growing up through life? It's not the Bronx. And actually, New York was meant to have zero tolerance for a long time. But, we shouldn't be needing motion detectors and security and all these other things from EE and things like that. And why has this other war now suddenly broke out? I think the governments are doing it to the citizens. I think it's coordinated government actions. But that's just my opinion. So it's all right, Tunecore making these sentiments, but why are they giving the? If you go into court with this, the judge will want to know why the email says that I requested to take it down. It says that I requested to take it down. That is in a courtroom. If I didn't turn up to court, if I didn't appear, and if all I did was send this printed out in there, it's evidence that I asked them to take it down. Even if they say that, or even if they say that the other parties did it, so it's creating a falsity, a false statement, and I really think they need to have a different standard email that they send out. They need to update. They've updated the rest of the website because it's creating a false account. It's creating a false account of something that happened. Anyone who reads this, who gets hold of this email, will think, and even in court, even if I say that otherwise, this is evidence that if I say that, if I say that I didn't request it to be taken down, this is evidence that I might be lying. This is an evidence that I may be lying, or because it says they're saying that I requested it to be taken down. So it's not good to send this email out. If I had taken it down, and if I had requested it to be taken down, which I have done in the past, then that's all right. But as it stands, and the thing is, if you've got a lot of titles published, like 100 titles or 1,000, right, and this message is getting triggered and you're really busy and you've forgotten, you might just look at it and think, oh, we requested that to be taken down and now they've done it. And then you might not challenge them on it or pull them up on it. And when it doesn't say which store had the issue, this is almost like the government and security state that are taking over, even trying to cloud your consciousness and understanding, so you don't really know what's happening, you don't really know what's going on. And if there was a lot of things happening, if you've got a big business, to keep track of it all, it's misleading. And this is why I've got a strong belief that Tunecore, they've had to just change the security settings and login at the moment, so you have to verify for login, but this, I think that there is some intervention, and I think that it's government intervention, and there's a lot of events happening. There's a lot of terrorist-style events happening, like that Luton Airport explosion and that sycamore tree, and knowing how this other side operates, they get other people. They're not like the IRA who used to claim responsibility. They're not like Extinction Rebellion who say, oh, it was us. They like to try blame other people or else get their minions to do it. Their teenagers who go to Hadrian's Wall and cut a tree down. This side, they either like their own minions or their own advocates on their side to do actions and not claim it was on behalf of their side, or they just like to do it covertly, because the thing is, with this particular side, they actually, to win, they can't say or make it look like they're really cheating. Because if they claim that they were responsible for any action or any event, then people wouldn't vote for them and they really, really would lose power quickly. But the fact is, all you have to do is examine their behaviour. What are they doing through their companies? What are they doing through their websites? Well, Tony Blair has been going to foreign governments and telling them how they need to run the government, telling them how they should run the government, telling the corporate entities, training the Iraqis, training the Saudis, sending the bank manager over with a briefcase of money to advise the Saudis in all their banking from the Bank of England or wherever it's from. They're advising the Japanese government. They're meeting them. They're advising them, do it like this, do it like that. This government, when you used to process documents and procedures, used to be quite user-friendly. And now, all this, so we won't answer any questions, we can do it for any reason or no reason. And then the fact when it's actually lawful and you're using law, or they've got to comply and answer questions in the civil procedure rules, things like that. What we've got here is the elite, which is the main Labour and Tory parties, and, you know, in America, you know, the Biden administration and somewhat some of the Republicans and Trump. And they're actually doing the Star Trek Next Generation model, the whole command, Starfleet Command and Number One. And they've got these companies, I'm not actually blaming these companies, but they've been trained, training week, groomed, deal with it like this, deal with it like that. And they're all now trained into these processes and regimes and framework. And it's actually an invasion on democracy. It's actually an obstruction of the democracy. It's actually, and what they're doing is, a lot of these things aren't lawful, like this message that is giving a false statement. And they're taking orders from higher up and being told what to do. But it is really like the Roman army. When the Romans came over, they had all these shields and advanced equipment, right, that they got. But where did they get all their ranks and people from? As they were conquering, they got people to join up and prescribe, you know, and sign up. They might have been giving heroin out. You know, they might have been giving opium out, the Romans, from the Middle East, you know. How did they get all these people onto their side? They might have been dishing out, you know, the heroin to all the Roman army, you know. That might be how they took over. So they were happy all the time, you know. And when they weren't happy, they were pissed off, you know. They had the equipment to do it, and no matter whatever they got paid off or got money for it, they joined up and subscribed to it. And this is what's happening with the elite. You got people working for the banks, people working for the phone companies, people working for the big food industry, that these people now have purchased it all and bought it. And now they're all under a command, or they're sacked. They're under a command and an administration which they will follow, or they're sacked. And that is how they're doing it. And but they're doing it and taking away our rights away when we've got a legal right to do something. When we're right. Even when you haven't done anything wrong, even now when there's nothing wrong with a video, or when they're publishing something and you do something the same and they say, oh, that person can do it, but you can't do it, which is clear discrimination. If it all added up, and if they were doing it right, and if they were doing it correctly, it wouldn't be bad. But they're doing it by this very wrong way of lying. Even if, you know, like these statements they're putting, I requested them to take this down, I didn't. Or if they're doing it, you know, like, you know, your content had COVID misinformation in it, when there was no such statements in there at all. I didn't even go into that subject, you know, and they rejected the appeal. But I had to press them on YouTube, you know, I got them admitting they were wrong. But they still didn't put it back up, even when they admitted they were wrong, because there's something else earlier which... you know, what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says, you know, when we're engaged politically, the platforms are the ways and means. And the thing is, one of these tracks that I'm trying to put out is the solution and the answer to all of it legally. And that's even getting blocked now. So, you know, I don't blame Tunecore, but, you know, why work for a company that is taking executive orders and trying to be fair, but it's clearly obvious that the policies that it's pushing are not fair and just, and could even possibly be illegal or are illegal. And the thing is, they say, oh, we've got to protect our staff and services, we're protecting our staff and services. They're protecting their own staff and services from getting legal action against them, right? Any information they don't want to give over. But the fact is, when it is a legal matter, they have to, because it says in the civil procedure rules that you've got to try and resolve the problem out of court first, and that's exchanging information enough to try and resolve it. they're not giving enough data over, because giving the data over them in a lot of cases proves they're wrong, and then they are liable. So what they're doing is, what they've been trained to do by this new elite is, if you do it the way that we say that you do it, it's like training the Roman army with their shields. They are pushing forward in their agenda, and they're making progress in censoring certain things and doing certain things without the soldiers being liable, without the soldiers being legally liable or harmed, when that's illegal. There's a legal requirement for them to comply. And that effectively is like what Charles said, a military-style campaign. So they are running a military-style campaign against us through the corporate framework. That's what they're doing. And a lot of it is illegal. But a war's illegal. An actual real war is illegal in the country that you're invading, you know. So it's not good, because we're actually being... And then you've got these corporate entities sending us text messages saying, "Oh, why don't you get motion detectors? Why don't you get motion detectors? You know, why don't you get this? Why don't you get that? You know, and so forth. You know, it's kind of fear-mongering. And they're trying to play on the public when a lot of these crimes are due from excess or unlawful immigrations and so forth as well. Who's orchestrated all that? How to get into that position where you would be scared to go out? It really is a terrible way to do business, but they really do want to get absolute total control, you know.